Veterinary medicine is a messy business both physically and emotionally. Vetsplaining is one veterinarian's attempt to explain and understand her own profession a little better. Join Dr. Lisa McFadden as she delves deep into the medical and business aspects of veterinary medicine.
I've been listening to your podcasts, and they're
good.
Yeah, they're very informative.
I'm glad. It's hard because I want to do more interviews, and we've got a few set up, but a lot of them are just sort of getting through content and starting to build a foundation for people as they kind of think about this whole leadership thing from a lot of angles. So hopefully it's been resonating, because I know most podcasts aren't like that. And so I hope that even though it's a little different, it's still engaging.
It is, and you have a great voice for radio.
Oh, thanks.
Well, and I spoke with Dr. Reck. She was on my podcast, and we're actually, because we had just done coming up with the ideals for our future culture at my hospital when I spoke with her, and so now we're actually trying the Aspire Stop the Gossip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so my manager and I have been reviewing the course, and we're going to do it as a group on Friday. And I've been interviewing staff that don't mind, just asking them, how long have you worked here? What do you like about the culture? What would you like to change?
Sure.
And then I'm going to record the audio of some of the actual meeting, and then a month later check in with everybody, and then kind of put that together as a podcast to kind of track the progress.
Wow, that's really, really nice. I'd like to just steal that podcast and put it on ours too.
Yeah,
That would be really cool, because that's what we're really looking for, I think, and I should say users are looking for is, hey, is this stuff working for anybody, right? Are you finding any value in it? Because that's what's really important to us too, is are we building it in a way that people can? And we've gotten a lot of feedback around it, but nothing that sort of complete and packaged, so that's really, really incredible.
Yeah, I'm happy to share once I complete it.
I'd love that. And then as you're reviewing the materials, does it feel like it's working for you, or that it is helpful as you go through some of those steps with your team?
So far, I listened to all the I guess behind the scenes ones, and then my practice manager and I listened to the video before we're going to present it to the staff, and listening to that together, I think, was helpful. I think the only, and I don't even know how one would incorporate this, but the only kind of information that I think would be useful is, because, you're like, yes, I want to talk to people. I want to get issues out in the open. This is my confrontation style. I'm learning other people's confrontation or conflict resolution style, but it's getting up the nerve to do it. And I know you guys have some coaching techniques in there. It's just, for me, sometimes that sort of being a very overly extroverted, emotional person, reining it in is hard.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to tailor it to every individual personality style.
But and there isn't even really a need to, but the part that's really important is sort of what I call the pregame, or that work ahead of it. Because when people have a plan, they're confident in how to go about it, and they're not sort of spinning in their head about all the things that'll be terrible when they do.
Yeah.
Then they typically are able to find the ability to go make the first step happen, right? Which is really what we want. Where if we don't have that, and we're allowed to just come up with all sorts of scenarios about, destruction and terror, then we don't. And so the plan typically is what helps us over that bridge, because we have a plan. But it's still difficult, right? And even when we do it with groups of people, it takes 6 months to a year before it feels like we're doing it more than we're not.
Right.
There'll be a few people that start because they are more comfortable, but for that momentum takes time to grow. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I liked the scene where you had the psycho knife going down the hallway.
Yeah,
because that's what it feels like.
Right?
Yeah.
We make up all this stuff. When I just ask people to describe, hey, what do you think will happen if you do have this conversation? I actually get amazed at how big the movie has been in their head and how bloody it has been along the way. It's like, wow, I've watched a lot of these happen and I've never seen that, but let's explore the possibilities, right? So, um, yeah, we scare ourselves about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you talk about prefrontal cortex versus amygdala, and I before you're 21, you haven't fully formed your boundaries and your prefrontal cortex, and so in my mind at least, when I get that nervous, I harken back to those emo,
Sure.
angsty stages, and it's like I'm in high school all over again, and then those kind of
Right.
thoughts spiral.
Yep. And they're just neural pathways that
Yeah.
we've created before. And so it is habit, and our thoughts will go to the places they are comfortable going rather than the ones we want them to until we build a new one. And that just takes repetition, right? So,
Yeah.
As you can see, I didn't even let Randy take a breath, let alone introduce himself at the beginning. So now we're going to move on to the actual interview portion. I just thought that we covered some interesting material. Plus, he does really have a very good podcast, and I think everybody should listen to it. And now we'll move on to the rest of the actual interview.
I'm Randy Hall, and first of all, thanks for having me, Dr. McFadden. It's exciting to be part of the discussion. It's exciting to even think about leadership in the veterinary profession, because I think there's huge opportunities for us to get better at that as a group of people, as there is in any profession. But I appreciate the opportunity. I've been working with leadership for quite a while now in a lot of different venues, a lot of different industries, a lot of different types of businesses. I started out probably, well, a whole lot of years ago in sales in the veterinary profession. I came into that with an animal science degree. I may be the only person on the planet that teaches leadership with an animal science degree. But somehow I have connected those two things over the years. And so I was in pharmaceutical sales in the veterinary world for years, and really just came, obviously, with an animal science degree to begin with, to love the profession and to care deeply about what this profession does, and to constantly sort of be thinking about how I can have a positive impact on it. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not working every day in a hospital, and so it's a little different approach. But I do think that there are things that I've been able to bring to the profession around the concepts of leadership development and the right way and the wrong way to lead teams of people and drive change and create a strong culture. And so my career has been pretty interesting, at least from my point of view. So after I sort of left sales and sales management in the veterinary space, I moved into learning and development and leadership development. Ended up heading up Pfizer Animal Health's global learning and development team, and actually got to kind of build that from scratch as that business was growing, which was really exciting. And then got a call from Bank of America and moved into a role there as their senior vice president, learning and leadership development. And so was able to really round out skills around organizational effectiveness, around executive coaching, around a lot of more formal approaches to leadership development within organizations and groups of people. And so it's been a fun journey. I left there about a decade ago now and started my own leadership development consulting business. And we work primarily with Fortune 500 companies within my initial sort of consulting business. But because I had a lot of contacts in the veterinary space, I got asked to come over and do some things in the veterinary world. And it just rekindled kind of my love for that profession and for what it does and the connection with it. And so it's been a pretty neat journey. Now I get to do, at least for 30 or 40% of my time, probably combine those two things I care deeply about, leadership development and helping develop better leaders in the world. I just thought our kids probably need it at some stage, and that's sort of what appealed to me. And then also this connection with this incredible profession that I think has so much opportunity to just continue to improve the way we build strong cultures, lead strong teams, do it with less stress and less angst, in ways that are sustainable and feel more comfortable for us over time and achieve better results. So that's probably a long introduction, but it's who I am and where I've been so far.
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you. And I know, speaking with Dr. Julie Reck, you all, in working together, kind of organically formed Aspire. And if you'd like to tell people a little bit about Aspire.
Sure, I would. And Aspire essentially came into being because I couldn't not do it anymore. I think that's sort of a governing principle. When things sort of keep tugging at you in ways that you can't get away from, then you may need to pay attention to them in a bigger way. And that's kind of what happened with Aspire. As I would sort of speak within the veterinary profession, a lot of times pharmaceutical companies would sponsor me at meetings or events, or some of the big national meetings would say, hey, we'd like you to do a keynote on this, or we'd like you to do a workshop here. I would constantly get questions like, hey, do you have a book? Or is there anywhere we can learn more about this? Because we're really intrigued by the fact that this leadership thing is a process, not an art form. And we're excited about what we've learned so far, and we want to go try it. But we also would love to dig deeper, learn more, have tools that we can use sort of outside of this workshop space with you. And that just didn't stop. And as the requests continued to sort of expand and the opportunities to work with veterinary professionals sort of continued to expand, they actually just got louder for me in terms of what can I do to support the profession. And I do a fair amount of consulting with individual hospitals, but let's face it, every individual hospital doesn't want to bring a consultant in that's going to spend 2 or 3 days there a quarter, and it's going to be a different sort of budget thought process for them, right? And so it's not something that everybody can do, but we needed something that everybody can take advantage of. And that's how Aspire happened. I started taking the content, the tools, the things that we've used in veterinary hospitals to help them completely change their culture, the way they lead, the amount of stress inside the organization, the amount of drama inside the organization, all of the things that we want to help people get better at. The level of employee engagement within their team. And we took that content and we put it into really high quality video guided lessons and exercises and courses. And they're all RACE and CVPM approved. And so we are building and have a really good start on a true leadership development resource for veterinarians and practice owners and practice managers who want to lead differently inside this profession. And so we've combined a deep and thorough understanding of what leadership looks like with an intimate knowledge and association with and a proven track record within the veterinary profession in Aspire. And that's really what we're hoping to be able to share with as many people as we can.
And I think partnering with AHA, especially having it presented during Connexity, was great, just because that was the first of its kind conference with the first of its kind veterinary CE. Because it's hard to get veterinarians to think about spending CE time on anything other than shoving a bunch of medical knowledge in their brains.
Right. Yeah, and there's plenty of opportunities for that, right? But there aren't a lot of opportunities to go think about leading a team of people differently, or at least not as many, and certainly maybe not as many, at the level that can have a real impact when you get back to the hospital, because that's what's important. There's lots of theories and ideas and great speakers and interesting people and engaging talks. What we're about and what we're trying to be even more about is the ability for people to go back and make a difference with this. But you're exactly right. The partnership with AHA has been phenomenal. They have joined in helping us bring this to the profession in a way that supports it as more people are aware of it. And also, obviously, when you've got the name of AHA, working with the content too, people apply some credibility to it, as they should. And so it's been a great partnership for us.
And when you compare veterinarians to the Fortune 500 companies, is across the board, are a lot of the challenges in leadership the same? It's just different kind of views on it? Or is it really there are like more unique leadership challenges depending on the category of business that you're working with?
It's a great question, and I get it a lot, and the answer's kind of twofold. So at the core, the way that you lead and the laws that govern sort of human behavior change and human engagement don't shift. And so those things are similar. What's different is that applying those principles in a